Hello and welcome everybody. I think we are just waiting for make sure everybody is still streaming in here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great panel to chat with you today about the power of connection, building your network and influence as an SE. Well, good. I wanted to go through some housekeeping first. My name is Greer Lynch. I'm VP of Marketing here at Reprise, and I'm joined with a couple great folks to talk with you today about networking. Before we get into that, a few housekeeping things. We will be launching some polls to understand the role of networking for this group, and we're going to share the results at the end. Feel free to ask questions throughout. You can just throw those in the chat or the question box. We'll have time at the end, but don't hesitate or keep your questions to the end. If there's something pressing for you during the conversation, we'll address it. And then this is kind of a unique format. So we have some panel questions, and then we'll dive into two different guides that we will send you after this that will help you network and take these learnings into practice in your real life. And then at the end, for anybody who can stay on with us for 15 minutes, we're actually going to break out into networking groups. So you can start putting some of these tips and tricks into practice today and expand your network within the hour. So without further ado, I want to introduce the group. We are joined by Maddie and Yuji from Better Career. They certainly know a ton about the role of networking in your career as a solutions professional. And Chris Mabry, he leads solutions and partnerships at Reprise, and as a solutions professional, also understands the importance of building a network. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks for having us, Greer. And if you're tuning in, please feel free to throw your location in the chat. I always love to know where people are chiming in from. It's always surprising to see people from around the world in there. So throw in where are you joining us? Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Ottawa, Denver. Love to see it.
Wonderful. And welcome, Maddie and Yuji. Okay, well, let's get into it then. We have our polls popping up right now, so feel free. There's just three simple questions. If you want to submit those, we'll share the results out at the end. So our first question, let's talk about networking both internally and externally, within your organization and externally. So what does this mean specifically in the solutions world, and why should we care about this? So Yuji, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about internal networking. Why is that critical to your career?
Yeah, happy to do that. Just real quickly. So yeah, I'm Yuji Higashi, co-founder of Better Career. I used to be a pre-sales leader way back when, and then also co-founded Pre-Sales Collective. And I'll just start by saying, networking has really helped me throughout my career. It helped me get my first SC leader role through my internal network, and then through my external network is what actually led me to meet James Kakis, who I ended up co-founding Pre-Sales Collective with, and then also led me to Better Career, which is what I'm running now. And so I owe everything I do to the network, and so it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So yeah, with regards to internal network, there's a lot to think about because internal network is where you should really start, right? Because you need to be really good at your job and in your role, and really branded as somebody that's very effective in your role to be able to do all the other things you want in your career. And a lot of that as a solutioner or as an SC is through getting deals done, right? You need to be able to get deals done. And the way you're able to do that is through building strong relationships with people around you, specifically, and most importantly, the AEs you work with, right? But also your SC team. Those are the people you work most closely with to get deals done, to bring in revenue, and ultimately, do what you're meant to do as an SC. But then also thinking about how do you intentionally build relationships with people outside of that first circle, and that in the second circle, it's teams like product and engineering or customer success or technical support. Those are teams that you also want to start to build relationships with, because again, having those relationships are really going to be useful in helping you win more deals and make a bigger impact in the organization. To give you one quick story on internal networking, and one example of this, I had an SC on my team who was a remote SC, but every time he would come into the office at headquarters, he would come once a quarter. He would bring donuts and treats and candy to our technical support team. They sat in a single corner in the office, and he would bring, donuts to them just to show appreciation for all of the support that they provided him in going through extensive POCs that he would run for some of his enterprise deals. He knew he needed their support, and they appreciated that he recognized that they were a big part of contributing to some of those wins. So that's one quick story of how building a strong internal relationships with different teams cross functionally can really be helpful. The other last thing I'll say on this is, when it comes to thinking about getting promoted and building a brand for yourself internally, having strong champions is very important to getting promoted and moving up, especially the higher up you go. If you don't have, you can be really good at your job, have great numbers, but if you don't have strong champions that are in the room pounding the table for you and advocating for you, it's going to be hard for you to move up quickly and a lot. And so the best champions for SCs, I think, are sales leaders because they're very vocal. They have a lot of influence in the organization. And if they really like you and feel like you make a big impact on their sales team, then they're going to be advocates for you in helping you get that promotion. I've seen that time and time again with SEs that I've helped get promoted on my teams. When they've had strong SE leaders that have been big advocates for them, they've really done well for themselves. So that's one relationship that you really want to invest in internally. All right, I've talked a lot about internal networking, so we'll pass it on.
Well, that's great. That's really some good learnings there. Maddie, talk to us about external networking. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hi everyone. I'm Maddie. I'm super excited to be here today. So similar to Yuji, like I owe everything in my career to networking, and I'm really passionate about the subject. I think a lot of times it can feel like, oh, networking is maybe like fake or unauthentic, but I think we often mistake effort with inauthenticity when in reality, putting in effort, being intentional is actually how you build really meaningful connections. So when it comes to looking externally, the foundation of your networking should definitely be internally, like Yuji just talked about. Like you have to excel in your role. You want to expand your network within your role. But then externally is often where we neglect the most, just because it requires a little bit more effort out of us. But these are the kind of, like connections that also can help you really excel in your role. So for example, when I was a founding SE, I was, the lone wolf and I didn't know like, okay, what's normal? What should I expect? How do I advocate for myself? And then I started connecting through the Pre-Sales Collective with other founding SEs. And so through that, we helped each other actually advocate for comp increases, and we shared comp plans. And so it was a great way for me to not only get better at my job and just how do I be a better SE, but it was also really great in helping me learn just really the more of the ecosystem and function of pre-sales beyond just how it operated within my organization. So getting those other perspectives, having a sounding board is going to help you, really accelerate your career in a lot of different ways. Another really great example is putting yourself out there and getting publicly visible is going to open so many doors for you. So just one quick example, there's an SE who's really, really awesome on her job. She happened to sign up for a webinar to speak as a panelist and, shared her heart, brought her perspective. And there was someone on the call that was a head of SEs at another company, really well known, that saw her and heard the way that she, talked and delivered and told stories, and ended up actually fast tracking her through their interview process for a role that is pretty much double what she's making today. So she didn't even go out and apply. She actually got reached out directly by that leader. And so that's just one example of how like putting yourself out there, raising your hand for a webinar or attending an event can actually get you a new opportunity that you wouldn't have got otherwise.
That's great. What a great story too. Wonderful. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, Maddie, like that brings me to so many other stories I know of people who have raised their hand to join panels or discussions and then have been chosen by somebody else. To introduce myself, I'm Chris Mabry, VP of Solutions at Reprise, Pre-Sales Collective, XGM, part of the Solutions family. I love all of you. Thank you for joining. Uh, uh, to add to your point, Maddie, on because my initial thought, this is how I started networking. I put up a request to speak at an event at the Pre-Sales Collective, and it was chosen, and it was Leadership Next, and I was a panelist. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never done anything like that in my life. I was nervous as all get out. Um, After that, my network exploded, and I was like, "Wow, why did that happen?" But let's just say you don't get lucky and get chosen, or maybe you're not ready for that step. Um, the other side of this is what I would recommend, especially external and internal, is create some content any way you can. And you know how that recruiter reached out to the person who was speaking. I look when I'm hiring, I also look for people's perspective, and I say, have they created anything on this? So it could be even a YouTube video that nobody's even watched. If you have it on your LinkedIn profile and I look at it, we're in. Networking externally and internally, the way to sum up my viewpoint on this is your network should stay with you forever. A lot of people focus internally. How do they, and it's almost like a scorecard, like how do I get all the connections I can to move up? Well, guess what? Your org may not stick around. And maybe you need to find people outside, or those people internally, they're going to go to other companies. They are your network. Just make sure they're the genuine people you connect with. Don't try to fake it. Last point I'll make is to respond to Camilla's point on this Pacer King. You and I both, I think it's an awesome idea.
Well, you guys can connect after. See, networking coming to life. Well, great. I'm really enjoying these examples from the real world. So, Chris or Maddie, do you have any other examples to share about, networking success stories?
Yeah, I have one. I'll jump in real quick. There is, I'm gonna just name him Sam. So Sam is, he's an experienced AE, decided he wanted to pivot and become a sales engineer. And he ended up finding a role that he was really interested, aligned well with his background. But the role had been posted for a while. And it turns out that they were actually in final rounds with other candidates that they were pretty happy with. But what he did is he ended up networking with one of the more senior SEs at the company who happened to, be a very visible person within the organization, and did a great job of, connecting with him, explaining why he felt like he was a really great fit for the role. And then that employee ended up advocating for Sam and saying, you've got to interview him to the hiring team. I know you're in final stages with other folks, but I really feel like he's going to fit well within this organization. And so they ended up fast tracking him through, and he just received that offer along with another one just the other day. And so that was a really great example of like it was kind of stacked against him, and the role there, they already had favored candidates. And because he went out of his way to network and really showed up thoughtfully to that call, asking good questions, being very authentic, that's what enabled him to actually beat out the rest. So it's just another quick example, and the importance of just networking, even beyond with leaders, networking with other peers too.
That's great. Okay, so we have some great examples. We know why this is important, some good success stories. So how do we get there? So I'd love to dive in to understand, how do you convert your technical expertise into industry recognition? How do you build your influence? How do you start doing this? Chris, I know this is near and dear to your heart. So how do you go about building your influence?
Oh man. First of all, you have to throw away the idea that it's fake, or being an influencer is something that you're going to strive for, or the imposter syndrome of looking at other people's popular stuff and saying, I can't do that, or how could I possibly, that's not me. My step is to take my advice, and what I started doing was taking extremely small steps and sharing things that I thought were unique to me. And so what I started doing was just sharing, small wins or learnings on LinkedIn, and observations within our category as a craft. And that small step, although it felt very nerve-wracking at first, really helped me to start understanding my voice and my viewpoint on our profession. That helped me do things like even have my internal performance reviews. So start some sort of content in some small way. Offer, where it feels easy, and a category within that thing. Like, let's say we're in solution engineering here. We have a craft, we have sales, we have product, we have technical expertise. You might be like really passionate about one part of this. You might be really passionate about people breaking into their first solution engineering role. You might be really passionate about developers trying to learn how to develop their soft skills. You may have a story of your own. Start sharing that piece that feels very approachable. And then do it on content that you like. Like if you love video content, make video. If you hate video and you're not comfortable seeing your face, do it written. If you want to do voice only, I don't care. Just do something that like is sharing and helping. Because you do have something unique that other people will benefit from no matter who you are. You just have to feel comfortable finding that in a genuine way.
That's great. And we have some interesting comments coming into Clifford shares for external, show your expertise with thoughtful comments on others' posts. Internal, he says, I use all internal announcements about new employees and reach out to them on LinkedIn and welcome them to the company. A really brief intro and ideas on how I can help them. That's great. Great practical ideas. Keep throwing your suggestions in the comments. I think this is wonderful. We can all learn from each other here. Yuji, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, a few things to add. I'll also echo what Chris said. I mean, start small, right? As far as if you're putting their thoughts out there, whether it's on LinkedIn or finding a medium that works for you, whether it's LinkedIn or YouTube or blogs. When you can be visible about something that you have a perspective on, you don't have to be an expert in it, but be visible about something you have a perspective on. You're going to attract people to you, right? There's a couple ways to do networking. One is you can go reach out to people or go to networking events, and you can be out there talking to people, or you can have people come to you based on something that you're putting out into the world, right? Whether that's a LinkedIn post or blog article or a perspective in some video that you put out there. And so, yeah, you can start small with something, everybody out here, everybody on this call has some sort of expertise or some sort of, experience that they can share that was going to help at least 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 50 people. And so that's where you start, right? You just think about helping 1 or 2 people with some experience that you just lived through or that you learned about or that you did some research on and have a point of view around. And if you put that out there, it's going to help, people come to you because they want to learn or talk to you about your perspective on it or hear from you on your perspective on it. So it's worth doing. I think that even from a hiring perspective, I think about it when I've looked at candidate profiles and they have some content or some blogs they've written on a specific domain or technology. It's always good to see that stuff because it shows that they're passionate about it. It shows that they're willing, and really interested in it and willing to take that extra effort to then help others and share what they learn, which is a core part of being a good SE is, helping others learn and educate them on what technology does and how it solves problems. So yeah, those are some thoughts on how you can, get yourself out there, be visible, show credibility, and then ultimately that leads to a lot of opportunity. It certainly has for me in my career.
Great, thank you. All right, so we want to put this into practice. Let's talk about some frameworks for success and how to build out your own networking plan. So I know Reprise and Better Career, we both put together some guides and some tactical pieces that you'll be able to take and we'll send after this call so you can start networking today. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chris and Maddie to kind of walk through what those will look like and the frameworks for thinking about your networking.
Yeah, thanks. And usually I'm curious too on how, I mean, whenever you help people get jobs and you're trying to, do you see that's like a huge benefit to somebody's resume if they've ever created content or that you can point them to a video that they've made or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, especially if they've done a video or presented in a webinar, that usually shows really well because it also gives that hiring team insight into how they present, what their delivery looks like, their ability to kind of own the room, so to speak, and that's really helpful when you're hiring SCs. But I think it just goes to show too that individual is willing to do more than just their core job. They're willing to share what they're learning with the world, and I think that speaks to just how they they operate more proactively in how they grow their career, and that's the type of person I want to hire. So yeah, I think it does help.
Man, you've nailed it. That's what I've been trying to say is it shows that proactive hunger for the craft.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's one of those things that, I'm talking about the framework for the success, like how to build your network. Like that's such a key part of it. You got to be hungry to share and to build and to help, to show people that you're willing to go beyond just doing your job. Here's my process. So every single person watching this live, and if you're watching it on the side, put your phone down and come back to the webinar. put your LinkedIn in the chat right now because it starts absolutely right now. I don't want to talk about this theoretically. Like, I want you all to connect with us on LinkedIn, and I want to connect with every person in the chat. So like if I don't have, we have 70 people here. If I don't have 40 new requests, I've not done my job well. So I'm going to put mine in too. Winnie, I already know you. Love it though. I'll put mine in too. It's good to see you. So start doing it absolutely right now. The second piece, if you go to events, uh, connect with every single speaker or every single panelist. Send them a message saying, love what you shared about XYZ. Um, you know what? I would like to share too. So if you have anything coming up, I'd love to be a part of it. Right. If you want to get on stage, do something virtual. Camilla's really good at this. She just shared a LinkedIn. She's just an SE success story out of New York. Connect with others who have done this. So start small right now. And then on our guide that we're going to share, we actually have like this 5-part guide on increasing your visibility, using LinkedIn as a professional hub. It's way more than just a resume. You got to actively and strategically build your network. Do it intentionally. The goal here is to not focus don't focus on external or internal. More crucially, one or the other. They're both helpful. And then we're going to share the guide in a PDF form in the chat and probably in a follow-up email for you to follow. So thank you. Maddie, over to you. You've got a really cool template to share.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. I love that you had everyone just add their LinkedIn profiles. So really quickly, you all, I'm just going to walk you through this resource. This is something that we're sharing as a follow-up after today. But the idea is this is a guide to help you kind of manage, think through your networking activities. I don't know if anyone's ever used Notion before. I know we've got Notion lovers and haters. I'm very much a Notion lover. I've used it for a lot of different things, and it's great because you can essentially build your own like personal like CRM. And in this case, it would be like a contact CRM for your contacts. So what we have here is kind of two, if you open up these toggles, this will kind of walk you through some initial guidance on how to go about first building your network. And then secondly, how to navigate meaningful conversations. A lot of times, truthfully, we get feedback from managers that say, oh yeah, I spoke to this person, or oh yeah, I spoke to this career changer, but they showed up and they didn't ask good questions. They were super robotic. They didn't know a lot about my background. And then that person missed an opportunity to potentially get in, either get a mentor or get in an interview cycle because of the way that they showed up or to a call. And so this kind of walks you through just how to think about those conversations. One quick example is, definitely like say if you're having a networking call with Chris, you should go and listen to one of his podcasts. He's led a podcast before. And do you have one currently? Yes, you have one currently, right, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point too, is if you connect with somebody and they do the content, try to check it out first because it's a little embarrassing if you don't know and you connect with them too.
Yeah, exactly. And so if I was going to meet with Chris, what I would do is I would look up one of his podcasts that he's done in the past. I would listen to part of it. I would develop a point of view and I would go out of my way to mention it on like, hey, I really enjoyed this perspective. I'd love to talk about that with you. And this also is true for like any webinars or articles or things that people have posted. So just a quick example of things that you want to think through, not only for networking conversations, but also for interviews. The last thing that I'll call out here before I move on to the contract tracker is the importance of keeping your contacts warm over time. And what this really means is learn to stay in touch with people. So after you put on all this work to get to know someone, if you just never reach back out to them, then you haven't truly built a bridge. And so what you want to think about with this contact tracker is not only to like easily manage and see all the people that you've had conversations with, but also to know how to and when to follow up with them. And so this has a button here where you can just create a new contact and include like there's a few details here, and then there will be a template that pops up for you to put in a draft for your LinkedIn message, things you want to call out in the conversation that you have with them. And then also like your follow-up checklist of how to make sure that you can, like stay on top of your follow-up. Now, again, this might seem like a little bit systematic just for networking, but I promise you it makes your life so much easier. And it also is going to allow you to build better rapport because you're not always going to remember everything someone said in a conversation. But if you go back and look at the notes and I see like, oh, like Yuji actually has a dog named Nella, I'm going to bring that up again. I know that Nella was having surgery. So next time I talk to him, I might ask like, hey, how's Nella? And that shows just that shows Yuji that I really care about the conversation and that I'm putting in effort. So I'm not trying to, what you want to do is it can be authentic if you just think about like level of effort as intention. So there's a few other things within this guide, including creating some goals. Highly recommend taking a look at the examples and creating a system for yourself of trying to attend, one either in-person or live event a month, reaching out to other SEs on LinkedIn, commenting on other SEs. You can put a goal to it just to make sure that you or that you stay accountable over time. And then lastly, I have a few recommendations on tech stack. Definitely recommend an AI note taker. We use Fathom. Granola is another really great one. So that way it will take notes for you and you can be really present for the conversation. And then also highly recommend getting Calendly. Makes scheduling so much easier. It's really annoying to have to go back and forth with someone around like, okay, well, what time are you available? And that creates a little bit of kind of friction, and you want to make it as easy as possible for someone to book time with you. So a few other things on this guide, we're going to be sharing the link with you all. You're going to be able to just duplicate it to your own free Notion account, and then you can leverage it to track the conversations that you have. And we definitely love to hear feedback as you all use it. We've had tons and tons of SEs use this or something very similar, and have had a lot of success with just being, more accountable and more consistent with their networking. So, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen now, but hopefully that's a helpful resource for you all.
Yeah, I think you're getting some good comments here. People are loving it in the chats. I think this will be put into great use right after this webinar. Wanted to open it up to questions. We have a couple that have rolled in, but keep sending them in. So we'll run through a couple questions and then we'll look at the poll results from earlier, and then we'll break out into networking groups. So first question, thank you for sharing your perspectives on networking. I'm currently working on switching my career from a sales rep to sales engineering. How should I navigate this?
First of all, know you're making the right choice. I'll let the two experts go your bottom on my screen, but give your insight on that.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it, we've helped a lot of AEs switch from sales to sales engineering. And the way you want to think about it is, look, you already have a lot of the skills, especially if you're doing your own demos and things like that as a sales rep. So the biggest objections that you'll need to overcome for a sales engineering manager that might want to hire you are two usually. One is, are you going to be able to be technical enough and go into the weeds like the next few layers deep that AEs typically don't do, because the SCs do. So you need to prove to them that you have that technical capacity. And so you can do that through creating a learning development plan or a 30-60-90 that includes how you're going to, or how you are already closing the gap on some of those technical skills, and how you plan on continuing to close the gap on those technical skills, so that now you can take all of your great sales experience, you have the technical skills, and that is the core part of being an SC. And then the other part that you're going to have to overcome as far as objection goes are just, why do you want to be an SC versus be an AE? Are you going to be comfortable not having full ownership of the opportunity throughout the process, right? That's sometimes the hesitation that hiring managers will have. So having a good talk track and a good narrative around that why is very important. And I think if you do those two things, you will find success in getting an SC role, because oftentimes, again, there's a lot of overlap in the skill set.
To add on to, you really want to show them that you want to be hands-on with their technology. And so as soon as you have some companies in mind or companies that you're pursuing, you want to do everything you can to become a product expert, despite just being in the interview process, or maybe you're not even interviewing yet. So what that looks like is taking the certifications, taking whatever available trainings that they have online. It could even look like, doing a free trial, doing all the certifications, and then doing a micro demo and sharing that directly with the hiring team. You want to show them that like you're willing to be hands-on with the tech, as well as expanding like your technical skill set, learning about APIs and those kinds of things, but learn their specific tech and really show them that like that's a part of your why, being more hands-on with the tech.
Yeah.
I'll add one thing that I've noticed, which is during your interview process, don't focus on what you're running away from. Focus on what you're excited about. Because I hear a lot of, I don't want to be an AE anymore because of this and this and this and this. And it's led me to becoming an SE. Don't speak negatively of the AE role. Speak very positively about the SE role instead.
Great. I have a couple other questions that are coming in. Here's one. What are some common mistakes or pitfalls someone can make while they are networking or reaching out that can hurt promising conversations?
I have a quick hot take, which is
Okay.
don't reach out to somebody asking for their time without giving them anything back. I've had a lot of people say, hey, can I put 15, 20 minutes on your calendar? And it's like, I don't have it. So it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just very hard to fulfill those. So make it more interesting and offer something outside the box. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think yeah, oftentimes, sometimes you don't have a lot to give, right? But at a minimum, you can give if with somebody you want to have connection with or have a conversation with. At a minimum, you can give them a thoughtful message, right? Not just a simple, hey, you have 15 minutes to chat. I'd love to pick your brain on something. Like that's not going to work because people are getting a lot of those type of messages. So just write a thoughtful message about where you are in your career and why you love perspective. Maybe show that you've done some research on that individual as well. I think that provides them with some understanding and some value of why they should spend the time with you. And then on that conversation, right? People love giving advice. People love sharing their story, right? So come prepared with good questions to ask them about those things. And then the two things I like to do at the end of any sort of like networking conversation, especially if you're a job seeker, one is to always ask them, hey, is there, let's just say, I love the conversation, got a ton of insight. Thanks for sharing your story and all the advice. Is there anything that I can do for you to help you in your career, any project that you're working on? They'll always say no, right? But at least you're offering that and you're making it more of a two-way relationship versus them just giving you a bunch of advice and career help, right? And the second question is always to ask, like, is there anybody else that you feel like I should connect with based on what we talked about today and based on what you understand of my career direction and goals? And then usually they'll provide some recommendations for people you can go connect with. And if the conversation went really well, they might actually introduce you to those other people. And then you get some warm intros to some other folks as well. And lastly, I'll say like to what Maddie mentioned, follow up with them, right? Like I always love getting updates from people I've talked to, and then 3 months later I get an update. It's just they're not asking for anything. They're just saying, hey, I took your advice, I got this job, or I did this, and it really paid off, And that's always nice to just keep your connections warm. So, and you can track all that in the tracker.
I think that's great advice. We probably have time for one or two more. Here's a good one. Some practical advice for becoming an SE or for doing the work here. How can we become better at demoing and presenting? I found that it's hard to get actionable feedback on demos and storytelling from the perspective as an SE.
I have a lot of ideas, but if you guys want to go.
Jump in.
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, when you're interviewing, especially, you're not getting a lot of feedback from hiring teams. Like you just don't get, and if you get feedback, it's not the real stuff anyway. So the best way to get feedback is doing it with somebody that you trust, other SCs in the community. Pre-sales collective is a great place to meet people that are willing to help you. Will coach you on doing your demo, giving you the real feedback. Hire a coach or mentor to help you with that. That's what we do as well. Or use AI. AI is there's a lot of great tools out there. Udly is one that we use. It does have a freemium option that you can use to start out with, and you can actually do a demo to the AI, interact with it as if it were a role play, and then it'll give you feedback, really specific feedback on what you can do to improve to make your demo better. So those are like the quick ideas. There's also other programs and workshops you can do that Demo to Win and others offer, but there's a lot of options out there. But I think start with people like in your community and just ask them. And people are very willing, especially SCs who are generally very helpful people, are willing to help do a quick dry run with you and give you some feedback.
Yeah. One thing to add, you just covered so many, but watch yourself, watch a recording. So like ideally do it in Udemy, then get the AI feedback, but also watch yourself, because a lot of times you're going to be able to pick up on things that you just don't know when you're actually presenting. And so it is a little bit of, coaching yourself. But if you use something like AI as well, you can even feed the transcript into ChatGPT and say like, like, how would you evaluate my value selling? Where do you feel like I could have, better communicated value or this? Just other ways to kind of self-resource if you don't have a lot of external resources available to coach you.
Yeah.
And if you want one more perspective, mine is the demo is not a full-on presentation. Oftentimes it is a process that you walk through. And if you ever feel like you want to get better, just ask more questions.
Yeah.
The more questions you ask, the more you know, the better your demo will be.
That's really good. Okay, well, I think we're at time for Q&A. So we have our poll results. I think 94% of you participated in the poll, which is awesome. So they should pop up on your screens right now. You can kind of see all the answers here. When was your last networking call or event? Good for everybody here. It seems like most folks, 34% within the last month. But then, then the next one is 21% more than 6 months ago. So certainly something that we can all do more of and make part of our standard procedure here. How often do you attempt to network? Well, it's pretty evenly spread out from weekly to monthly, a few times a year, but then some rarely and nevers. So it's a good thing you're on the webinar today. And the last question, I think the biggest hesitation around networking is just being unsure of how to do it effectively. So hopefully, today's conversation, we'll send out those guides afterwards. Hopefully now you have the tools and some strategies to go put this into practice. So for anyone who can stick around, we're going to break out into some small groups so we can start doing some networking for about 15 minutes. These will be small groups. Introduce yourself, talk about, what your new plan is and how you plan to approach networking, and get to know one another. Hop off now if you don't have the time to stay to network, but we hope that you will. And thank you so much for joining us today.